All right.
This is the Doug Gottlieb Show. This is America's longest-running afternoon drive sports radio show, broadcasting live from the studios of Fox Sports Radio.
Bang, bang, won't stop till we're legends.
Here's Doug Gottlieb.
Boom! What up, America? Doug Gottlieb Show, Fox Sports Radio. Coming to you from the sunny, glorious city of Angels, where we, like you, watched the NBA Finals and thought, how could that be our teams? Why couldn't that be our teams? I would love to say there are other topics today, but there really aren't. Game one in the books. I don't get them all right, but I do the self-pat when I get them right. I told you this thing, if there was a chance for a steal of a home game, game one was a perfect one. Warriors off just a ferocious 7-game series, brutally physical, taxing Game 7 series, and I'm not convinced the Warriors are nearly as good as the public's perception of the Warriors are, especially without Andre Iguodala. All of this and LeBron James being in kind of some moment of zen offensively, having an offense to which you have perfect spacing around him. I gave him a chance, absolute chance. The 10-point point differential at the end, one I know that a lot of you sweating, right? That you're like, 12 and a half. This is in the bag. And then you're like, whoa. Just one technical foul. That's good enough. Congrats to Ryan Music, who is the only one who picked. I think he said Cavs by double digits. You said obviously Warriors by double digits. Excuse me. I thought it'd be a close game, and we got a ridiculously close game. I got a lot to get to. But let's start with technology and our use of technology. First thing is, no matter how much LeBron James said he read the play better or as well as he's ever read the play, that was his quote afterwards, right? I read the play as well as I've ever read the play. This was LeBron after the game.
We were told that they were reviewing if I had my feet outside the line, and when I knew that, I was like, okay, that's going to be our ball. I knew I was outside the charge line, so that's what the communication was to us. And we were over on the sideline drawing up a play, to try to execute, try to go up a couple possessions.
No matter how much LeBron said, hey, I read that play defensively as well as any play I've read. That's what the quote actually was. I think that people who are arguing, most people, now Big Mike, who works with us, runs the studio. He's like, oh no, it was a charge. I think most of us, especially when you watch in slow-mo, you got to be set before he goes into his move. He was never set. He turned his body. I think most people, if you ask them, they would go like, yeah, it kind of looked more like a block. What you're bothered by is, how can you review a judgment call? Right? I didn't know they could review a judgment call. And technically, you can't, only you can. If you have to review whether or not his feet were outside the line, which leads me to believe that the officials, one had a charge, one or maybe two had a block, and after making the call, they got together and like, well, let's go, everybody do the fingers together, check the replay to see if his feet were outside the lines. Oh yeah, by the way, while we're there, why don't we go and check on whether or not it was actually a charge? Got it. Everybody good? Good. So whether it was wink, wink, nod, nod, whether it was just some eye contact, or you got three of, and believe it or not, this is the hardest statement to make, these are actually three of the best officials in all of basketball. You're like, no way. Like, yep. However you grade them, this is actually as good as it gets. That's the best the NBA can do. And you can sit there and tell me, no, they stink and they made mistakes last night. They made mistakes. I don't think they stink. They made mistakes. But it also proves how bad most other officials are. Anybody who plays basketball is like, yeah, you're right. They're actually way worse otherwise. Anyone who played overseas or you watch the Olympics, you're like, wow, they are awful. This is actually the best officiating you're ever going to get. You're like, no way. Like, yep. I think we're more bothered how they got to it than whether or not the call was right. It's a hard call, right? I'm not denying that Kevin Durant wasn't selfish. I'm not denying that Kevin Durant didn't play poorly. It was a simple drop-off pass to Draymond Green, who might have dunked, probably laid the ball in. Maybe LeBron deflects the pass, but the likelihood is if he simply jump stops and lays the ball off, it's a dunk, it's a layup, and we play on. It's the process by which they got to it, to which the officials weren't totally honest with how they corrected the call. I know that you think that, well, you can't have this, you can't change judgment calls, but the fact is you've watched football, which doesn't allow this type of overturn, and thought they should. You've watched for whether or not a catch was made or not made and said, hey, why can't they go back and say that's pass interference? You ever watched a play like that? I have. Where they miss a call and then, but by rule, they can't go back and change it. And you think it's infuriating. What's the point of having replay unless the only reason they have replay is to get it right, correct? Right? And this is one of the problems with getting it right. Here's the best equation I can make. Does your car have a parking sensor? Beep, 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 beep. Does your car have a parking sensor? Have a parking sensor? Sometimes it's way, way too sensitive. Like, I got it. I'm just parking the car. That's what this is. Sometimes it's a little bit too much, but you know what the parking sensor stops you from doing? Bumping into another car. Does your car have a seatbelt sensor? Oh, that seatbelt thing. Ugh, I hate that seatbelt thing. You know what you won't do? You won't drive without your seatbelt. Technology is amazing. I think it's amazing. I have a button in my car, I'm going to hate to brag here, that can parallel park my car for me. Now I got to stop at the right spot, and I can parallel park my car. That's crazy. Crazy, right? Isn't that the most nerve-wracking part about taking a driving test is like, oh, I got to do the parallel parking. Who likes parallel parking? Now, I particularly, because I worked in New York City, I'm actually a great parallel parker. But the idea of having no agita, no anxiety over parallel parking, like, nope, there's literally no way that my car will crash into another car when it's parallel parking because I got this one button. That's like crazy. But I got to stop it just so. I got to make sure that it says I can parallel park. I got to press the button, and then I got to take my hands off. So you've been screaming for technology. You've discussed, hey, we need artificial intelligence here. That's what you got. You got technology. You got the call right. And whether or not the NBA is completely honest and forthcoming about why they went to review the call, anybody who's ever played basketball knows that sometimes the ball goes out of bounds off of you, but you got fouled, so you get the ball. Why? Got to even it up. The same thing is true here. My guess is that they had a disagreement on the call. One guy had charge, one or maybe two had a block. You know what we'll do? Let's go and check to see if his feet are outside the semicircle. Because the officials know all of the rules. That's why they made it to the NBA Finals. And they know that the only way to overturn this call, to make sure they get it right, is to review it. And after reviewing it, it actually goes to the league office, to which they said, like, that's a block. And for people who say, oh, well, you know, Steve Javie, he had it as a charge. Like, dude, Steve Javie, all he's trying to do is not sell out the guys on the floor. He thought they had a charge. A charge has never been overturned in the history of basketball. What you saw last night is the first time in playoff basketball, NCAA tournament. I know there's a bunch of Baylor fans who love that I zinged Duke because a couple years ago, 5-6 years ago, they beat Baylor on a super controversial, should have been a charge, was called a block call. Or 2. Or 3. But the point is, that has never happened before. Here's Ty Lue.
For our team to come out and, play their hearts out and compete the way we did, man. It's bad. And it's never been done before where he's outside of restricted and then you go there and overturn the call and say it's a block. It's never been done, ever, in the history of the game.
Ever.
And then tonight in the finals, on the biggest stage, when our team play well, play their ass off, man, it ain't right.
Here's the problem, okay? I thought Ty Lue did a magnificent coaching job. I think everything he said is correct. They outplayed the Warriors. They deserve to win the game. Was it a charge or was it a block? That was never asked of him. Was it a charge or was it a block? And he goes, well, it was this and that. It would never been done. I'm not disputing any of that. But just because it hadn't been done did not mean they didn't ultimately get the call right. And, oh, yeah, by the way, while we're sitting here making all kinds of funny memes about J.R. Smith not knowing the score and then lying about it afterwards, George Hill's an 80% free throw shooter. He made the first. He choked the second. He makes that free throw. They're up 1 point with 4 seconds to go. But Ty Lue's saying, we played our hearts out. You did. We competed. You did. We deserved to win. You did. We did this and we did that and we held it and we were. You did. Nobody's arguing that. Was it a charge or was it a block? All honesty. But they didn't call it a charge. It's never been overturned before. Was it a charge or was it a block? It was a block. It's a block. Here's KD's thoughts.
I could have boxed JR out. I got to do a better job. So I'm glad we was able to get the win with that happening. But the block charge thing, I knew once it was 30 seconds to go that they can review that situation. I knew that. I knew he was late on the drive. And I know I had my man beat, and he came over a little late. So when they called the charge, I was surprised, but I'm glad they reviewed it.
You know what the other part is? You'll never hear anybody back up. You never hear like, hey, we got one. I got away with one there. He did kind of like, I didn't do a good enough job boxing out. No, you didn't box out at all. He didn't do a good enough job. Let me translate. You did a terrible job. J.R. Smith, who's not a rebounder, got an offensive rebound in the biggest situation in the game. And you're 7 feet tall with long arms, with inside position. Other than that, you totally nailed the rebounding thing.